Perfect. There we go. So yeah, hi everybody. Hope you've enjoyed the event so far today. And yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing and I guess speaking with you about the distribution opportunities outside of the core platforms, mainly iOS and Google Play, in the market right now. So to give, I guess, a bit of context of GameBake and myself right now as well, and to kind of guide us into uh, the opportunity of distribution in the market right now. GameBake is trying to, I guess, build and simplify distribution and how we see it in the market and how it should be, which is, very simple integrations and a very easy and quick way to get onto new platforms and into new markets around the globe. The way we see that is it should be open, it should be flexible, and it should be done in a very simple and non-complicated manner. So how do we see the distribution market? And we kind of break distribution and the market in general into four pillars. And that is for app stores, alternative stores for us specifically, but of course including stores and I guess love already with iOS and Google Play. Web platforms as well. One of them platforms out there that a lot of people I think either don't really understand and fully appreciate, or just don't really know how to get onto web, be that from a technology standpoint, or just from I guess an approach of how to get into the market and find out how to publish your games there as well. But mobile and desktop web is a great platform that really enables and can open up many doors and millions of new users for your games globally. Social platforms, which is I think one probably a lot of people have heard about already, especially with Facebook Instant, WeChat with their mini programs, but also many other platforms in specific markets around the globe, such as within Russia with VK and OK, and looking into more sort of messaging platforms as well, with Line, Viber and others out there, Snapchat being one that's very big and prominent at the moment, which I'm sure you guys have seen within the market. And also apps as well. There's a lot of streaming apps which are very much focused around entertainment and streaming of videos right now. But there's a lot of apps, especially in specific markets, for example within India, where they're starting to leverage gaming as part of their options for their users. And some of these platforms have hundreds of millions of monthly active users that are ready and just ripe for playing games, and especially more sort of hyper casual games or games that really can take advantage of the skill gaming environment and competitive environment that these sort of social I guess platforms and environment really sort of breed. And apps is something that is a great growth opportunity for games that might have been doing well on iOS and Google Play, and have kind of I guess grown beyond what they can now feasibly reach on platforms like that, and they're great opportunities to open new doors and new avenues to grow the games further and extend their lifespan even further as well. So how do we see the challenge right now? And the challenge really is the fragmentation of the market. And as you saw just then with the four pillars that we do have, there is a lot to consider with distribution right now in the market. I mean, technology is of course one of the biggest hurdles, and how you develop your game from the very beginning is going to have a dramatic effect on what platforms you can go to. Web platforms, social platforms, and as well some of the app platforms that are out there. They need games that are built in HTML5 in web technologies, and building a game within Unity, for example, which does have WebGL exports and can take advantage of some desktop platforms, but normally in most cases engine like Unity just doesn't really have the ability to support properly a platform like Facebook Instant, or platforms on mobile web, for example. And that is stopping you reaching potentially hundreds of millions of users out there, that your game could, be performing really well in front of. So technology is definitely something to consider and think about, and just one of the hurdles as in this challenge basically of distribution. Another one is deciding what platforms you really want to go to as well. If you've got a PC game and you're currently targeting that game towards Steam, you could see opportunities to distribute onto desktop browsers as well, to take advantage of the similar play environments, but the hundreds of millions, if not billions of users that have access to the internet across the globe. But also, if you're looking at mobile, are you looking at games that are more socially inclined, that could take advantage of platforms like Snapchat or platforms like Facebook Instant and WeChat, or more single player experiences that are probably going to be best targeted towards the app stores, and towards iOS, Google Play, of course, but also looking to extend that reach further, looking towards App Gallery, towards Get Apps, Samsung Galaxy Store, and the many more that exist out there as well. Looking as well, which markets are you trying to actually target? Obviously everybody wants a global approach, of course. Everyone wants as many users as possible and to get into as many markets as possible as well. But you should really be looking at how you can, really get a core user base to your games at the very beginning, and finding which markets you want to be in, whether that is North America and looking towards Western Europe, for example, or the whole of Europe, or whether you want to have your game targeted towards a market like India, for example, where games like Ludo, for example, are very popular, or Carom as well. If you have a pool game, for example, and you've seen this with Miniclip, with 8-ball pool. It's a massively successful game, which I'm sure all of you have heard of. But within India itself, Miniclip took the approach and really targeted that market specifically with their Carom game, which has had well in excess of 100 million downloads, mainly within the Indian market. So that's a good consideration, and one that really you should be thinking about at the beginning of, I guess, your game development journey, and when you're looking to deploy it and really, I guess, exploit the game as well within the market. But beyond that, there's so much more as well, just outside of the development and the technology. Forming the partnerships with all of these different platforms is a headache in itself, trying to reach out and connect with them in the first place, but then trying to actually balance and, find the partnerships, and get them to a position where you can really take advantage of the platforms, and get your game in front of these users. That is a challenge in itself, let alone once you're actually, I guess, decided on your platforms and you've decided on your markets, and how it is you want to distribute to these guys. You then have to think about your monetization strategies, your marketing strategies, and how you're going to accomplish that as well. And that's another thing that at the moment is just very difficult to do, because the ecosystem, unlike iOS, unlike Google Play, and even unlike Steam and platforms like this, which have full and extensive ecosystems built around them, to allow you to relatively easily be able to monetize your games and market to users across the globe to get them into your games, so you can start to even try to attempt to monetize them and have them enjoy the gameplay experience that you have built. This just simply doesn't exist across a lot of platforms that you can distribute to. And even though there's hundreds of millions of users on a platform like Get Apps, for example, payments are something that you need to consider. Finding a partner for advertising as well is another thing you would need to find various different partners for. And marketing as well is just across the board something very difficult to do across alternative Android stores and platforms, let alone looking into web and social platforms as well. So there is a lot to think about when it comes to distribution. And although there's a lot of opportunity that can be taken advantage of, you need to really think about how you want to approach it to make sure that it's cost effective for yourself, and becomes an actual opportunity rather than more of a complicated endeavor, which is something nobody wants when you really want to just be focusing on the game to build the best game that can be in the market. some distribution landscape. I mean, as we kind of just went over, there's a lot out there. From the 4 pillars that we identify ourselves, from app stores to web platforms and so on. But also they're very difficult to get to. And, how we kind of see the distribution landscape is, something akin to, you can see on your screen right now, where you have your core platforms. And, we always, when we speak to any of our partners or, potential partners that try to see, ask us what platform should they be looking into, what should they focus on. And, we always say focus on iOS, focus on Google Play. These are core platforms for a reason, and the ecosystem is there to allow you to, really monetize and market and build up the user base within your games, as many of the talks they have already spoken about in, great detail. But there is a lot of opportunity to the side of that in alternative Android stores and platforms, the social platforms and web platforms and so on, as we spoke about. But the effort to get there is, a bit more difficult, and you really need to either cherry pick what platforms, I guess, are going to work for you and for your game to get the most out of it, or you need to find some sort of partner or a solution that can really simplify the distribution strategy for you, so you can focus on your core platforms and you can focus on building, the best game possible, basically, for your users, while still being able to reach and find these new markets and these new users around the globe. So some of the opportunity that we're seeing, which feel free to screenshot the screen, and I can share this with anybody as well after the presentation, so you can dive through and see the numbers yourself. But as you can see, there's some amazing platforms out there with hundreds of millions of users that are using them. And App Gallery, I think, is a great example right now for a platform that's kind of fighting to be, I guess, the third core platform and third option for the development and for the gaming community in general. And a lot of their users, of that 690 million plus, admittedly do come from the Chinese market, where they have obviously a massive presence. But there is, within Europe alone, well over 80 plus million Huawei App Gallery users. And these are users that do not have access to Google Play. So if you want access to these users, you need to find a way to get onto App Gallery, be that working directly with Huawei and their HMS, systems and services, or be that working with a partner, either like ourselves or somebody out there, which really allows you to get onto the platform very simply. It's very simple to do, and you can really focus on the game itself at that point, to really be able to scale on a platform and get in front of them 80 million new users for you to take advantage of. And there's many platforms like this around the globe, from obviously App Gallery in Europe, but also into South America and SEA and so on as well. But looking into Get Apps with Xiaomi, One Store as well in South Korea or in the SEA region. There's a lot of platforms, even on the Android side or on the web side and social platform side as well, that have very specific, I guess, markets that they are within, but have great scale opportunities and revenue opportunities as well to come with that. So there's some great opportunity out there that you really should be looking into and trying to take advantage of for your games. So right now, I mean, we all know obviously of Sensor Tower reports and Newzoo reports that are out there that give various different numbers that usually are around sort of a similar figure across them. But overall, how we've seen and kind of averaged it out, the growth of just alternative platforms, mainly Android platforms right now, it's definitely growing, and it's becoming more and more relevant as the months go on, to be fair, let alone the years go by. And we're looking now at sort of a 17, potentially up to 20% of mobile revenue coming from alternative stores such as App Gallery, Get Apps, One Store, and the likes. And that's a significant amount. And as I've said at the beginning and said earlier as well, you shouldn't discount obviously iOS and Google Play as the core platforms. And the majority of your revenue, for a game that has great KPIs, monetizes very well, and has the ability to scale on them two platforms, it's going to come from iOS and Google Play. But there is a great opportunity to, extend your revenue even further, and really extend the lifespan of games even further as well by taking advantage of the alternative platforms that do exist out there. And that's just going to become a bigger and bigger opportunity as we go further into the future, especially with Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, and many other Samsung as well, manufacturers starting to pivot away from a solely Google Play and Google services focused business model, and starting to claw back a bit of control really for the devices that they're the ones building, and starting to build their own ecosystems around their devices and around the hundreds of millions of users that they have got globally. So it's something to really think about, for us, something really to consider right now, as the opportunity is, it's great right now, and it's just really starting to ramp up and begin, and really thinking about it and how you can bring these platforms and think about a wider distribution plan, basically, when you're thinking about your marketing strategy, is something that you should be thinking about right now and really trying to take advantage of as well as we push forwards into the future. And I mentioned web right briefly, and it's one of the, as I said at the beginning, kind of the forgotten platforms, I would say. But there's a massive opportunity, and all internet users have access to a browser in some form or some capacity, be that with a desktop or a laptop, or with their smartphones, of course, with their mobile browsers. But there is great opportunity with web gaming right now, and although it can be somewhat complex to get to with the relevant technologies, that's something to think about when you are building your games, what platform you want to use to actually build your game in the first place. But if web platforms are something that you do want to consider, then it's definitely something that has a great opportunity for scale with just the sheer number of users, but also has a great revenue opportunity as well, mainly via advertising right now, where purchases are not difficult, but just not as, I would say, fluid as it is on an iOS device, for example. So there is obviously some hurdles to kind of jump over there. But if you're finding web to be a platform for you, and your games are driven a lot or heavily by ad monetization, then it's definitely worth considering. And if you find the right partners on web as well, working with gaming portals directly, or various other sort of social or media portals that are out there, you can really scale games up into millions of plays monthly. That can really help to, again, extend the lifespan of a game that has had success on iOS and Google Play previously, or can be a significant revenue driver, and to help you scale upon your Android and your mobile platforms as well, to drive new users from a web version into mobile, or help drive I guess new marketing opportunities as well across the platform. So yeah, a forgotten platform, but one that should definitely be considered when thinking about how to further distribute your games or bring your games and deploy them into the market. So I guess what can you do when you want to think about distributing your games? And for us is, from the beginning, just plan distribution, not just marketing. Whether you're looking to just be a development studio and work with a publisher, you should still be thinking about, when you're doing the legal side and the contracts, what platforms does the publisher have access to? For example, are they just going to publish and market your games on iOS and Google Play? Does that mean that the rest of the platforms that are out there are available for you to take advantage of directly and find another publisher for? Or are they just going to leave it and not bother with the rest of these platforms and potentially miss out on a significant portion of revenue? Or if you're going yourself and you're developing your marketing plan and you've decided what markets you want to be launching into, that's amazing. But when you are launching into these markets, are you just going to be going to iOS and Google Play and running your standard user acquisition to compete with the big players in the market, and a very crowded market at that? Or did you want to think about the other platforms that do exist in a market like India, for example, where you could find amazing access into these various markets globally, and find free user acquisition in a lot of cases, and access to millions of users without costing you a penny. So really thinking about your distribution from day one, I think is an important step right now. And it should be part of everybody's strategy when you're thinking of your game ideas and thinking about how to prototype these games and where it is you want to go as you move forwards. And then of course finding the right partners. Once you've obviously decided your distribution strategy and how you want to approach it, but then you've got to the prototyping stage, you've found your game does work within the market, and there is a player base for it. But finding the right partners at that stage, be it a publisher, as I already said, for various platforms, or finding a partner who can help you to distribute onto new and exciting platforms that do exist globally right now. That's going to be an important step. Just finding the right people to work with, and yeah, hopefully we can be ones that help simplify that. But there's many out there as well that can help either just work with you or just to guide you towards the right people to speak to get onto these platforms and really take advantage of them. And of course, once you've got your game, you're good to go at that point really. And hopefully you thought about this from the very beginning, and global distribution will be something simple for you, and not something that is currently very complex and can be very messy at the current time. But yeah, if you plan it out right from the beginning and really think about what it is that you're doing and what it is that you want to achieve with your game, then there's no reason that you can't expand outside of the core stores and really distribute to billions of users across the globe, and really take advantage of them and make sure that your game is playable for any user across the globe, no matter what device they want to play from and no matter what platform they want to play upon as well.